30. That is the number of times police cruisers have rolled into my driveway in the past 4 months. 30 times I have stepped outside with my hands visible, palms open, movements slow and deliberate, like a man who has learned that sudden gestures invite misunderstandings. 30 times I have shown the same deed, the same federal documents, the same irrefutable proof that I own this house free and clear. And 30 times, the woman in the light blue suit has stood across the street, arms crossed over her chest, watching like a predator waiting for its prey to make one wrong move. I have memorized her silhouette by now, the way the morning sun catches her silver hair, styled into something architectural that would not move in a hurricane, the way her heels click against asphalt that does not belong to her, though she does not know that yet. The way she holds her phone like a weapon, always ready to dial, always ready to summon another cruiser to my door. But call number 30 was different, because this time, when Deputy Holt handed me her complaint, the words printed on that familiar form made even him pause. Illegal road obstruction and suspected terrorist activity. I read it twice, letting the absurdity settle into my bones, feeling something shift inside me that had been building for 123 days. I did not just show him my documents this time. I showed him the survey map from 1962, the one with the faded blue ink and the federal seal that nobody had looked at in 6 decades, the one that proved every single house in her precious HOA, all 52 of them, sat on a road that belonged to me. And then I told him exactly what I planned to do with my bulldozer. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back 4 months, to the morning I learned that the quietest neighborhoods hide the loudest secrets. 4 months earlier, the moving truck backed into the driveway at 7:47 a.m. I noted the time automatically, the way you do when you have spent 2 decades documenting every road surface, every easement marker, every inch of asphalt that federal money touches. Old habits do not die. They just find new applications. The driver, a young kid maybe 22 years old with forearms like he had been loading trucks since high school, watched me unload the first box myself. Heavy, books mostly, federal highway codes, survey regulations, court precedents from cases most people have never heard of. The kind of reading material that puts normal people to sleep, but kept me employed, and eventually kept me alive, for 23 years. He wiped sweat from his forehead, despite the cool morning air. Are you a lawyer or something? Something. He did not ask follow-up questions. Smart kid. The house at 1847 Briarstone Ridge Drive was not supposed to exist. Not according to the county records I had pulled 3 months earlier when I first noticed the listing buried in a federal auction database. Not according to the HOA maps that showed this lot as undeveloped conservation land. Not according to anyone who had lived in Briarstone Highlands for the past 4 decades. But I knew what I was looking at the moment I saw the property survey attached to the auction listing. A 1962 federal highway easement. Original deed predating the entire subdivision by 43 years. And a private access road that someone had very carefully, very deliberately, buried in paperwork for 6 decades. Most people saw an old house in a difficult neighborhood. I saw a puzzle. And I have never been able to resist a puzzle. The house itself was modest. 2 stories, cedar siding weathered to gray, a porch that faced the mountains like it had been positioned specifically to catch the sunset. The previous owner, a recluse named Shepard Holloway, had died 18 months ago without heirs. No family, no friends, just a house that sat empty until the county put it up for auction. I was the only bidder who understood what they were actually selling. The settlement money from my previous life, The life before I learned that exposing $47 million in fraud makes you enemies in high places was enough to buy it outright. Cash. No mortgage. No bank to pressure me if things got complicated. Things always get complicated. I was carrying my third box of books toward the porch when I heard her before I saw her. Heels against asphalt. Click, click, click. The rhythm of someone who expected the world to rearrange itself around her schedule. She emerged from between two manicured hedges like she had been waiting there all morning, watching, calculating, choosing her moment with the precision of a predator who knows exactly when to strike. Light blue suit, pressed sharp enough to cut paper. Silver hair styled into something that defied both gravity and humidity. Eyes the color of winter ice, and just as warm. Behind her, 4 others in matching navy polos marched in formation. Briarstone Highlands HOA embroidered in gold thread across their chests. They moved like a practiced unit, choreographed, rehearsed. They had done this before. You are trespassing. No introduction. No welcome to the neighborhood. Just 3 words delivered like a verdict already decided. I set down the box I was carrying. Kitchen supplies. The tape made a soft ripping sound in the morning quiet that seemed impossibly loud. I am moving into my house. This property, she gestured at the 2-story structure behind me. The one with electricity, plumbing, a mailbox, and 62 years of recorded history, is designated conservation land under HOA jurisdiction. No residential development has been authorized. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle like a physical presence. You need to leave. Now. I looked at the house. I looked at her. Felt the familiar tingle at the back of my neck. The one that always appeared when someone was lying with absolute confidence. Interesting interpretation of conservation land. Her left eye twitched, barely perceptible. A micro-expression that lasted maybe 1/10 of a second. But I had spent years reading people across negotiating tables, in deposition rooms, in federal courtrooms where the wrong raid could cost millions. She was nervous. Hiding it well, but nervous. Good. I am Sable Whitford, president of the Briarstone Highlands Homeowners Association for the past 17 years. She said it was like announcing royalty. And I am telling you officially that this property falls under our governance. You have 24 hours to vacate, or we will involve law enforcement. Ms. Whitford, I have the original deed from 1962, a federal highway easement survey, and a clear title search showing this property has never, at any point in 62 years, been part of any homeowners association. Our records show otherwise. Then your records are wrong. A voice cut through the tension like a knife through butter. Gravelly, amused, ancient. Sable, you are embarrassing yourself again. An old man shuffled across the lawn from the property next door. 89 if he was a day, but his eyes were sharp as broken glass behind thick spectacles. He carried a wooden walking stick that looked older than the neighborhood itself, maybe older than him. Each step deliberate, unhurried, the pace of someone who had stopped caring about other people's schedules decades ago. Thurgood, this does not concern you. Sable's voice dropped several degrees. I was the county surveyor for 34 years, Sable. Everything about property lines concerns me. He turned to me, extended a weathered hand spotted with age. Thurgood Pemberton, welcome to the neighborhood. Do not let the welcoming committee scare you off. Lord knows they have scared off enough already. Sable's jaw tightened visibly. Whatever history existed between her and the old man, it was not pleasant. "You are making a mistake, Mr. Briggs. Calhoun Briggs. But you can call me Cal. Mr. Briggs." She made my name sound like a disease. This community has operated smoothly for 17 years under my leadership. One outsider will not change that. She smiled, the kind of smile that made flowers wilt and small creatures seek shelter. 24 hours. Then she turned, her entourage falling in behind her like ducklings following a particularly venomous mother duck, and disappeared back through the hedges. Thurgood watched them go, shaking his head slowly. She did not wait 24 hours. She did not even wait 12. The first cruiser arrived at 6:14 p.m. Same evening, I was on the porch, unpacking a box of tools, wrenches, screwdrivers, and a voltage meter I had owned for 20 years, when red and blue lights painted my new home in alternating colors. One cruiser, one officer. The opening move in what would become a very long game. Deputy Garrison Holt stepped out slowly, like a man who had made this exact walk too many times before. Tall, weathered, mid-50s maybe. The kind of tiredness that does not come from lack of sleep. It comes from answering the same calls, for the same reasons, from the same person, year after year. "Mr. Briggs?" "That is me. We received a complaint." He glanced at his notepad, though I suspected he had memorized the words on the drive over. "Suspicious activity. Possible trespassing on HOA conservation land." He looked up. "Also suspected illegal construction?" I gestured to the house behind me, the house that had been standing since Kennedy was in office. "This house has been here since 1962, Deputy. I bought it at a county auction 3 months ago. I have all the documentation inside if you would like to see it." Holt studied the house. Studied me. Something crossed his weathered face. Recognition, maybe. Or just bone-deep exhaustion. "Let me guess, a woman in a blue suit made the call?" "Light blue. Very specific shade." He sighed. The kind of sigh that carries the weight of years. "Mr. Briggs, I am going to level with you, because you seem like a reasonable man, and reasonable men are in short supply around here lately." He lowered his voice, even though we were alone. "Sable Whitford has filed 47 complaints in the past 2 years. 43 were unfounded. Exposed lies, every single one. But we have to respond. Every time. Policy. I understand." "No." He met my eyes. "I do not think you do." She does not stop. Ever. The last family who tried to move in near here, the Hendersons, lasted 5 weeks before they sold at a loss and left. The one before that? Castellanos. 3 weeks. The one before that did not even finish unpacking. How many families total? In 17 years? He did the math in his head. 11 that I know of. Probably more that left before I transferred to this district. 11 families. Driven out. One by one. By a woman in a light blue suit who had decided she owned something that was never hers. Deputy Holt, I appreciate the warning. I really do. But I need you to understand something. I looked at my house, at the porch where I planned to drink my morning coffee for the next 30 years, at the mountains visible through the trees. I am not going anywhere. He studied me for a long moment. Whatever he saw in my face, stubbornness maybe, or something harder, made him nod slowly. Good luck, Mr. Briggs. You are going to need it. Maybe. But so is she. Call number 2 came at 5:47 a.m. the next morning. Noise complaint. I was making coffee. The machine was not even loud. Call 3, same day, 2:15 p.m. Unauthorized vehicle. My truck. Parked in my own driveway. On my own property. Call 4. Suspicious packages. Amazon deliveries. Books mostly. More highway codes. Court precedents. Building my library. Call 5. Possible drug activity. I was grilling a steak, medium rare. The only thing illegal about it was how much I paid for the cut. Call 6. Aggressive animal. I do not own pets. Call 7. Unauthorized landscaping. I had trimmed a bush. Call 8. Noise pollution. My wind chimes. Call 9. Suspicious gathering. My sister visited for lunch. Call 10. Potential explosive materials. Bags of mulch. For the garden I was planning. By call 10, I had stopped being annoyed and started being methodical. I bought a whiteboard, then a second one, then a filing cabinet. Every call got logged. Date, time, complaint, officer name, badge number, outcome, response time, weather conditions, position of the sun. Everything. The log became a document. The document became a database. And the database told a story. Sable Whitford was not just harassing me. She was running a system. Complaints filed in clusters, never more than 2 per day, always spread across different categories. Plausible enough to require response. Vague enough to avoid perjury charges. Consistent enough to drain resources and wear down resistance. Death by 1,000 bureaucratic cuts. She had perfected it over 17 years and 11 families. But she did not know what I used to do for a living. She did not know I had spent 23 years dissecting systems exactly like this one, finding the cracks, the inconsistencies, the points where pressure applied correctly could bring the whole thing crumbling down. And she definitely did not know about the map I was about to find in Thurgood's filing cabinet. Thurgood's study smelled like pipe tobacco and old paper, the scent of decades spent caring about things most people never notice. Filing cabinets lined every wall, floor to ceiling. Each drawer labeled in faded handwriting that predated computers, predated the internet, predated the neighborhood itself. 34 years of surveys, maps, property records, boundary disputes, all organized in a system only Thurgood understood. 1962, he muttered, pulling open a drawer that groaned with age. Federal Highway Administration survey. Right here. He unrolled a map across his dining table. Large. Yellowed at the edges. Blue ink faded to gray in places. But the lines were unmistakable, precise, professional, permanent. See this? His finger traced a thick line running through what was now Briarstone Ridge Drive. Federal easement. Established in '62 when they were planning the interstate expansion that never happened. Vietnam ate the budget. The project got shelved. But the easement. He tapped the line. Never rescinded. Never transferred. Never sold. And this property? I pointed to my lot. Shepard Holloway's grandfather got the original deed in 1919. The family held it through 3 generations. When the feds came through in '62, they recorded the easement but never purchased the land. Holloway kept ownership of everything, including the road. My heart rate accelerated. I had doubts when I bought the property. Now I know. Thurgood. Are you telling me that Briarstone Ridge Drive, the private road that connects 52 houses to the county highway, belongs to whoever owns that house? He grinned, showing teeth that had survived 9 decades. Belonged to Shepard. Now belongs to you. And the HOA has been collecting road maintenance fees for 17 years, $2,300 per household, annually, 52 houses. He did the math faster than I could. That is $119,600 per year. 17 years, over $2 million. Closer to 3.2, accounting for the increases she pushed through in 2015 and 2019. For a road they have never owned, never had the right to charge for, never spent a dime actually maintaining. I stared at the map, at the blue line that ran directly through Sable Whitford's carefully constructed kingdom. Does she know? Thurgood's expression darkened. The amusement faded, replaced by something older, harder. She knows. Found out about 5 years ago when she tried to get the county to repair it. They told her they could not. Federal easement, private ownership, not their jurisdiction. She buried the report, fired the consultant who found it. My niece Waverly, actually, who was doing accounting work for the HOA at the time. Your niece? Fired for disloyalty, which meant she asked the wrong questions about the wrong money. His hand trembled slightly on his walking stick. Sable did not just bury the report, Cal. She doubled the maintenance fees, started charging for road improvement projects that never happened. And when I tried to present this map at a board meeting in 2019, what happened? She had me declared mentally incompetent, said I was senile, confused, making things up. His jaw tightened. I have been waiting 4 years for someone who would actually listen. That night, I sat on my porch with the map spread across my knees and a decision to make. I could sell, take whatever Sable offered, and she would offer once she realized what I had, and disappear. Start over somewhere quieter. Or I could do what I had done once before, when I discovered $47 million in fraudulent highway contracts being funneled to a construction company that did not exist. I could document everything, build an airtight case, contact old colleagues who still had federal badges, and watch the whole thing burn. The next morning, police call 11 arrived at 6:00 a.m., suspected weapons stockpiling. I smiled. The game had just gotten interesting. I transformed my garage into something my former colleagues would have recognized instantly. A command center, south wall, police call log, color-coded by complaint type, cross-referenced by time of day, weather conditions, and which officer responded. Red pins for unfounded, yellow for pending, green for documented evidence of false reporting. Every pin was red. West Wall, financial timeline. HOA dues collected since 2007. Road maintenance fees, the ones Sable had been charging for a road she did not own. Contractor invoices I had obtained through public records requests that showed payments to companies that, according to state business registries, did not exist. North Wall, property records. Original deeds going back to 1919, survey maps from 1962, federal easement documentation, and, in a locked case, Thurgood's map, the one that proved everything. Call 12. Illegal signage. I had put up a mailbox with my house number. Apparently, the font was unauthorized. Call 13. Hazardous waste storage. Recycling bins. Properly sorted. Call 14. Threatening behavior. I waved at a neighbor. She waved back. Sable saw it from her window. Call 15. Unauthorized business operation. I received a FedEx package from my attorney. Deputy Holt started bringing coffee when he responded. We would stand on my porch, him apologizing for the waste of everyone's time, me adding another red pin to my board. Why do you not just leave? He asked during call 15, steam rising from his cup in the cool morning air. Most people would have cracked by now. The Hendersons made it in 5 weeks. You are at 6 and showing no signs of breaking. I spent 23 years at the Federal Highway Administration. You know what I did there? Roads, I assume. Fraud investigation. I was the lead analyst on the Hartwell construction case, the one that made national news in 2019. Holt's coffee cup froze halfway to his lips. His eyes widened. The $47 million scandal? The one where they found fake companies billing for highways that were never built? That was my case. 3 years of documentation, 1,400 pages of evidence, exposed a network that went all the way to a deputy secretary. That was you, that was me. I took a sip of my own coffee. And I will tell you something else, Deputy. Whatever Sable Whitford is running here, it is not just harassment. There is money somewhere, significant money. There is always money. Holt was quiet for a long moment. You are not going to stop, are you? Would you? He smiled, the first genuine smile I had seen from him. No. No, I would not. If you have ever dealt with someone who thinks their tiny bit of power makes them a dictator, you know exactly where this is heading. Sable thought she was breaking a stubborn old man. She did not know she was waking up to a predator. And trust me, the look on her face when the trap finally snapped shut was worth every second of the wait. Call 19 had come and gone. Suspected animal hoarding for 0 animals when someone unexpected pulled into my driveway. 9:17 p.m. Honda Civic, maybe 15 years old, paint faded to something between silver and gray. A woman in her late 30s stepped out, looking around 3 times before approaching my door. Checking for watchers, checking for cameras, checking for Sable. The knock was hesitant. The voice was not. Mr. Briggs? Calhoun Briggs? Who is asking? Waverly Sinclair. She held up a USB drive like it was a weapon. I used to be the HOA accountant, until Sable fired me for disloyalty 5 years ago. She paused. I have everything. Inside, she spread documents across my kitchen table. Her hands trembled slightly. Nerves or anger, I could not tell, but her voice was steady as bedrock. Briarstone Infrastructure, LLC, shell company registered in Delaware. Sable and Harold Whitford are the only shareholders. Road maintenance fees flow through the HOA general account. Get invoiced to the shell company for contracted maintenance services, then disappear into an account at a bank in the Cayman Islands. She pulled up a spreadsheet. Numbers, dates, account transfers. I tracked it for 3 years before she caught me asking questions. How much total? 3.2 million over 17 years. Probably more. I only had access to the last 8 years of records before she locked me out. But I copied everything I could first. I studied the documents. Professional, thorough. Exactly the kind of evidence that made federal prosecutors salivate and defense attorneys start negotiating plea deals. Why come to me now? After 5 years? Waverly's expression hardened. The trembling stopped because I heard what you did to Hartwell Construction. My uncle told me about you, said you were the first person in 4 years who actually listened to him about the map. Your uncle? Thurgood Pemberton, the old man next door. The one who had been declared mentally incompetent for telling the truth. The one who had been waiting 34 years for someone to finish what he started. Sable destroyed my career, Waverly continued. Told everyone I was embezzling, which is rich coming from her. I could not get accounting work anywhere in 3 counties. Had to start over from scratch in data entry. 5 years of rebuilding just to get back to where I was. And you kept the files all that time? I kept them because I knew someday someone would come along who could actually use them. She met my eyes. Uncle Thurgood says you are that someone. Was he right? I looked at the documents, on the map on my wall, at the woman who had waited 5 years for this exact moment. He was right. Sable must have sensed something shifting. The questions Waverly had asked 5 years ago were being asked again, by new people, through new channels, with new evidence backing them up. Her response was predictable. Escalate. Call 20 came at 2:47 a.m. Suspicious lights. I was reading. Lamp on. Apparently criminal. Call 21. 3:15 a.m. same night. Possible prowler on property. The prowler was me, getting water from my own kitchen. Call 22. 4:02 a.m. Gunshots heard in the vicinity. There were no gunshots, just the sound of Sable's desperation echoing through the department's dispatch system. Call 23. 4:58 a.m. Suspected explosive device. I had started my car to let it warm up. 4 calls in one night. She was losing control, and she knew it. The night patrols started 2 days later. 2 trucks. Briarstone security painted on the doors in letters that looked freshly stenciled. Men in tactical vests, the kind you buy at surplus stores, not the kind issued by actual agencies, circling my property every 30 minutes from dusk to dawn. They were not police. They were not licensed security guards. A quick check of state records confirmed that Briarstone Security was not a registered company. They were Harold Whitford's construction crew, playing soldiers in the dark. I documented them too. License plates, shift schedules, the specific angles they used when shining flashlights into my windows at midnight. Every data point another nail in a coffin Sable did not know was being built. Then the letters started arriving. Not for me, for everyone else. Emergency assessment notice. $5,000 per household, required for enhanced security measures due to criminal elements on Briarstone Ridge Drive. Payment due within 30 days. Failure to pay will result in property liens. Criminal element. That was me. The man whose crimes included owning a house and keeping records. 3 families paid immediately. The ones who had been conditioned by 17 years to never question Sable's authority. 2 others called Sable to complain about me, demanding to know when I would be dealt with. But one, a woman named Rosalind Thatcher, mid-50s, retired teacher, knocked on my door at 7:15 the next morning. Mr. Briggs? That is me. I received a letter. Everyone did. $5,000 for security because of... She hesitated. Because of you, apparently. Did Sable tell you what I actually did to warrant $5,000 worth of security? She said you are dangerous, that you have weapons, that you threatened her. Ms. Thatcher, I have not spoken to Sable Whitford in 3 weeks. The last time I saw her, she was standing in my driveway telling me I had 24 hours to vacate my own home. I paused. Did she also tell you what she has been doing with your road maintenance fees for the past 17 years? Rosalind blinked. What do you mean? Ask her to show you the receipts, the contractor invoices. Ask her which company actually did the road repairs she has been charging everyone for. She said the records are confidential, board only. Convenient, isn't it? She left confused. But I could see it, that first crack in Sable's wall of control. The first moment of doubt in someone who had been believing lies for nearly 2 decades. The cracks always start small. I made 3 calls that week, each one a piece of a puzzle that Sable could not see forming. First call, 8:47 a.m. Tuesday. Cordelia, it is Cal Briggs. Cal. Agent Cordelia Ashworth's voice carried the weight of 10 years of professional history. You are supposed to be retired, living somewhere quiet, not making waves. I tried to be quiet. Quiet found me anyway. What do you need? How do you feel about HOA fraud? Shell companies, offshore accounts, 17 years of fabricated maintenance fees for a road they never owned. A pause. The sound of her sitting up straighter. I feel very interested. Tell me more. Second call. 2:15 p.m. same day. Marcus Jennings had been my primary contractor contact during the Hartwell case, one of the few honest builders in a sea of fraudulent invoices. He had helped me understand how fake companies billed for work that never happened. Now I needed him to help me do some work that absolutely would happen. Cal Briggs. Have not heard that name in years. What do you need? A survey crew. Properly licensed, documented, official, and a bulldozer, preferably a large one. For what? Emergency road repairs. On my private property. I want them to be very visible. A low whistle. You are making someone's life difficult, are you not? I am correcting a 60-year-old drainage problem. Whatever difficulties arise are purely coincidental. Third call, 6:30 p.m. Wednesday. Victoria Castellan Escroto, military property law specialist, former JAG, and the attorney who had shepherded me through the Hartwell whistleblower settlement without letting the agency bury me along with their scandal. Cal, please tell me you are calling about something boring. Estate planning. Tax questions. Anything that does not involve federal investigations. I am about to do something that is going to make a lot of people very angry. She sighed. The sigh of someone who knew exactly what she was getting into. Of course you are. Tell me everything. I talked for 45 minutes. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Cal, what you are describing is not just HOA overreach. It is racketeering, wire fraud, potentially money laundering depending on how those offshore transfers were structured. I know. And you want to bulldoze their road? I want to repair my road, the one I legally own. If that repair happens to cut off 52 households from their only access point, that is a consequence of property rights, not malice. You are going to need ironclad documentation. I have 62 years of property records, 8 years of financial fraud evidence, a licensed engineering survey, and a former county surveyor who can testify to the entire history. Another pause. Then, when do we start? She came herself to call 29. Not the police this time. Not her security theater patrols. Just Sable Renata Whitford, standing at the edge of my driveway at sunset, light blue suit glowing amber in the dying light. I had been expecting her. When the calls stop working, People like Sable always try something more direct. Mr. Briggs, Ms. Whitford. We stood 15 feet apart. The distance felt electric. How much? Excuse me? How much to make you leave? Name your price, Dunsu. Double what you paid for this property. Triple. I will have the check written tonight. I walked down from my porch. Slow. Deliberate. Each step measured. Until I was close enough to see the fear behind her ice-colored eyes. Ms. Whitford, I did not buy this house because I needed a place to live. Then why? I bought it because I found something very interesting in the federal records. A 1962 easement survey, an original deed, and a private access road that 52 families have been paying you to maintain for 17 years. Her face went white, then gray, then something close to purple. You do not know what you are talking about. $3.2 million, Sable, give or take, funneled through a shell company in Delaware to accounts in the Cayman Islands. I have seen the records, all of them. 8 years of invoices for contractors that do not exist, payments for repairs that never happened, and a report from 2019 that you buried, the one that proved you have been collecting fees for property you have never owned. Who told you? It does not matter who told me. What matters is that I have documentation, the kind that federal prosecutors find very persuasive. She tried to recover, straightened her spine, lifted her chin. But the mask had cracked, and we both knew it. You are making a very powerful enemy, Mr. Briggs. I spent 23 years at the Federal Highway Administration investigating fraud. The last powerful enemy I made is currently serving 15 years in federal prison for contract manipulation. I stepped closer, close enough to smell her perfume, something expensive, floral, completely at odds with the venom in her voice. Ms. Whitford, I have faced congressional hearings. I have testified against deputy secretaries. I have had my career threatened, my reputation attacked, my family followed by private investigators hired by corporations with more money than your entire HOA will ever see. I smiled, the kind of smile that does not reach the eyes. Do you really think you scare me? This is not over. No, it is not, but not the way you think. The survey crew arrived at 7:15 the next morning. 3 trucks, yellow vests, professional-grade equipment that gleamed in the early light. Marcus had assembled his best team, men who understood that accurate measurements were not just numbers on paper, but weapons in the right hands. Sable must have been watching from her window, because she appeared before the first tripod was fully extended. Light blue suit, of course. Different shade, same armor. Behind her, Harold materialized with 3 of his fake security guards in tow. This is private property. You are trespassing. Ma'am, the lead surveyor said without looking up from his equipment. We have been contracted by the property owner to conduct a boundary survey. That property owner is standing right there. He pointed at me. And according to the deed we filed with the county this morning, he owns every inch of road we are currently standing on. The color drained from Sable's face. Not slowly, not gracefully. It vanished like water through sand. That is impossible. I stepped forward with the document Victoria had prepared overnight. Certified copy of deed transfer. Federal Highway easement acknowledgement. And a very interesting clause about private road maintenance responsibilities. 17 years of fees, Sable, collected for a road you never owned. I have calculated the total with interest. Would you like to know the number? She grabbed the document from my hand. Read it. Read it again. Her hand started shaking on the third pass. "This is fraud. You fabricated this. Call the county recorder. They filed it at 8:47 yesterday morning. The same office where you filed your incorporation papers for Briarstone Infrastructure, LLC. Interesting company, that one. Very creative accounting." Behind her, Harold was already on his phone. His face told the story before his words could. Whatever he was hearing, whatever confirmation he was getting, it was destroying everything they had built. 52 households watched from porches and driveways as the survey crew worked methodically down the road. Measuring, photographing, documenting. Each data point is another nail. Rosalind Thatcher approached first. "Mr. Briggs, what is happening?" "Your HOA president has been collecting road maintenance fees for property she does not own, has never owned. The records go back 17 years, $3.2 million, give or take." Rosalind's face went through something complicated. Confusion, anger, recognition. She raised our dues 3 times, said the contractors were expensive, said road repairs required specialized equipment. "The last contractor invoice I found," I said, "was for a company that dissolved in 2012, 3 years before the invoice date." The crowd was growing now. Neighbors who had paid without questioning. Neighbors who had believed without asking. Neighbors who were finally seeing the woman in the light blue suit for what she had always been. "Call the police!" Sable screamed at Harold. "Call them now! This is trespassing, intimidation, and illegal surveying." Harold's phone was already in his ear, but not to call local police. The black SUVs appeared at 11:42 a.m. 3 vehicles, federal plates. Men in navy windbreakers with letters I recognized immediately. They moved with the coordinated precision of people who had done this hundreds of times before. Agent Cordelia Ashworth stepped out of the lead vehicle. "Sable Renata Whitford, I demand to know what this is about. FBI Financial Crimes Division. We have a warrant for your arrest on charges of wire fraud, money laundering, and racketeering. We also have warrants to search your residence, your husband's business premises, and all accounts associated with Briarstone Infrastructure, LLC." She read the charges like she was reciting a grocery list. Calm, thorough, devastating. "This is absurd. I am the HOA president. I have served this community for 17 years. Ma'am," Cordelia said, "you are going to want to stop talking now." 2 agents approached Harold. A third entered their house. A fourth began photographing the fake security vehicles. Sable's composure finally shattered completely. Not a crack. A collapse. "You did this." She pointed at me, finger trembling. "You ruined everything." "No, Sable. You ruined it 17 years ago when you decided that lying was easier than leading. I just documented the damage." Cordelia placed her hand on Sable's arm. Firm. Professional. "Ma'am, you have the right to remain silent. I strongly suggest you exercise it." The handcuffs caught the morning light as they clicked into place. Silver against light blue. The colors of a kingdom falling. 52 households watched their president being led to a federal vehicle. Some looked shocked. Others looked vindicated. A few actually started clapping. Thurgood appeared at my elbow, leaning on his walking stick, eyes bright with something that might have been satisfaction, or might have been justice, or might have been both. 34 years, he said quietly. I waited 34 years to see someone finally listen. The bulldozer arrived 3 days later, not for revenge, for drainage. The original 1962 survey had noted a significant grade problem on Briarstone Ridge Drive, water runoff that pooled at the eastern edge, eroding the road base, creating structural instability that would worsen with every passing year. Shepherd Holloway had ignored it. The HOA had ignored it. Sable had charged people to fix it without ever acknowledging it existed. I was going to fix it properly. The blade dropped at 8:15 a.m. on a Tuesday. Clean, precise. The kind of engineering solution that federal highway specifications require. It just happened to cut off the HOA's access in the process. Marcus watched from his truck, coffee in hand. You know, this is going to make a lot of people very angry. The grade needs correction. Water flows downhill. Gravity does not negotiate. He laughed. Gravity does not negotiate. I am going to remember that one. For 72 hours, Briarstone Highlands was an island. No vehicles in or out, except through the old service road that connected to the county highway 3 miles east, a road that had not been maintained since 1987. The complaints started immediately. Not to me. Not anymore. To the county. To the state. To anyone who would listen. But the engineering reports were clear. The drainage problem was real. The repair was necessary. And the property owner had every legal right to correct deficiencies on his own land, even if that correction temporarily inconvenienced the neighbors. Victoria handled the lawsuits. 3 filed in the first week, all dismissed within 30 days. You cannot sue someone for performing legally required maintenance on property they legally own. On day 4, I opened access through the western entrance. Proper grade, proper drainage, proper engineering. The road was better than it had ever been. Irony, I suppose. The trial happened 8 months later. Federal courthouse in Richmond. 3 weeks of testimony. 400 exhibits. 6 witnesses who had been waiting years to tell their stories. Waverly testified about the shell company. Thurgood testified about the buried report. I testified about the 17 years of documentation that proved systematic fraud. Sable's defense attorney tried everything. Procedural objections, character attacks, claims of selective prosecution. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on 12 counts of wire fraud. Guilty on 3 counts of money laundering. Guilty on 2 counts of racketeering. Not guilty on the conspiracy charge, but the others were enough. The judge, a woman who had clearly seen enough white-collar criminals to recognize the pattern, delivered the sentence without sentiment. Sable Renata Whitford. You used a position of community trust to systematically steal from families who believed in your leadership. For 17 years, you collected fees for services you never provided, funneled money through shell companies you controlled, and destroyed the careers of anyone who questioned your authority. She paused. The court sentences you to 18 years in federal prison. You will pay restitution of $3.4 million to the affected households, and you will be barred from holding any fiduciary position for life. Sable stood motionless, light blue suit, silver hair, eyes that had gone empty somewhere between the verdict and the gavel. Harold received 12 years, slightly less, his attorney argued, because he was following his wife's lead. The judge was unimpressed. The restitution checks went out 6 months after sentencing. Average payment per household, $63,000. Some families wept when they opened the envelopes. Others just stared at numbers that represented 17 years of theft, finally returned. 1 year later, I stood on my porch watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of amber and gold. The road was smooth now, properly graded, properly maintained by a legitimate contractor who submitted real invoices for real work. The HOA still existed, restructured under new leadership. Rosalind Thatcher had been elected president by unanimous vote. Her first act was implementing transparent financial reporting. Her second was sending me a handwritten note. Thank you for not giving up when everyone told you to leave. Thurgood passed away in his sleep that spring, 8 months after the verdict. 90 years old. Peaceful, according to Waverly, who found him the next morning with one of his survey maps spread across his lap. He left me the original 1962 easement document, the one that started everything. I framed it and hung it in my study next to the whiteboard that still held all 30 police call records. Deputy Holt stopped by occasionally, not for complaints anymore, just coffee, conversation. You know, he said during one of those visits, I have been on the force for 28 years. I have never seen anyone do what you did. What did I do? You documented your way to justice. No violence, no shortcuts, just paper and patience. I thought about that for a long moment. The truth is always there, Deputy. Most people just do not have the patience to find it, or the stubbornness to hold on to it when everyone tells them to let go. He raised his coffee cup in a toast. To stubbornness. To stubbornness, some nights, I still hear the echo of police sirens in my dreams. 30 calls in 4 months. 30 times someone tried to make me disappear through bureaucratic exhaustion. 30 times I documented, categorized, and filed. They thought 30 would break me. They did not understand that 30 was just the beginning, because the real victory was not the trial, not the sentence, not even the restitution checks that restored what had been stolen. The real victory was simpler than that. I am still here, sitting on my porch, drinking my coffee, watching the mountains turn gold at sunset. The road is mine now, maintained properly, serving the community the way it should have been served for 60 years, and somewhere in a federal facility in Virginia, a woman in what I imagine is no longer a light blue suit is learning what happens when you mistake authority for ownership. Some things you cannot take, some things you can only earn. I earned this house. I earned this view. I earned the right to sit here in the quiet evening and know that the truth, documented properly, filed correctly, and defended stubbornly, will always outlast the lies. That is the only lesson that matters. If you have ever stood your ground when everyone told you to walk away, if you have ever documented the truth when lies were easier to believe, then you know why this story matters. Share this story with someone who needs to be reminded that the truth wins. Eventually. Because justice is not just for courtrooms. Sometimes it starts with one person, one property deed, and the patience to outlast everyone who tells you to give up.
Hope you're feeling great after watching. Like and subscribe to Red Story for more.